we face a pretty tough future. You guys are a nation. You guys are a nation with much more bigger problems facing you that faced Jeff and I. And I can see it because I have lived in my era and I'm living in your era. You don't have that fortune. You're living only in your time. So let me paint something for you. When my mom and dad lived, their youth, their early teenage years, they didn't have the things they needed. They didn't have clothes. They didn't have shoes. They didn't have good education. So if you look at the population that is the matures, they save everything. My mother saves Ziploc bags, washes them, tries to use them again. It doesn't matter how much money I have, and she lives with me. It's what's etched in her brain. When she first came to U.S. 15 years ago, she would even try to dry off paper towels to reuse it again. She came through an era where they just didn't have all the things they needed. So they're savers. They did okay. The baby boomers, which is Jeff, me, that generation, we had everything we needed. We had clothes, we had shoes, we didn't have a hole in our shoes. We didn't have anything we wanted. I didn't have a single piece of toy when I grew up. Not a one. So we grew up hungry, and we wanted to get those toys. And toys, damn it, we have it. 4 cars, 8-car garage, 12-car garage. You look at the guy, and then it's a sickness. It's not necessarily all good. And then comes my daughter, which is a very good kid, almost 16 years old, or his kids. Very good kids. They do so many good things, we really can do nothing but to be proud of them. But think about it. If they want an iPod, they get it before they ask for it. It shows up under the Christmas tree. And they want a bicycle, they have it. They want designer jeans, they got it. And you're no different than that. You've had what you needed, and you've had what you wanted. So what's going to drive you? So now the matters get worse. India and China both have 4 times, each one has 4 times as many as this nation had Jeff and I. Think about that. Each one of those countries have 4 times as many baby boomers. They have what they need. They don't have one thing they want. They have the opportunity now to become entrepreneurs, go to school, study, but they are hungry. So you will be faced in another 10 or 15 years 8 times as many as us, but there's actually more baby boomers than there is of you, but just say even if it's equal numbers, are a lot more hungry. So how can you win? Anybody has an answer? How can, I just gave you a problem, right? Do you agree with what I just told you? Yes or no? Anybody disagrees with that? Let's get some alignment in here. Anybody has a different vision? Am I wrong anywhere in here? Okay, so now we have a real problem, don't we? Right? What shall we do with problems? Yes?
You said that in 10 to 15 years we'll be faced with about 8 times as many people. Well, if we have already started in the next couple of years, or even by the time that they come to challenge us, if you already have something established, then it's a lot tougher versus, or it's easier versus trying to get into the market as soon as we're faced with that challenge.
Okay. So let me point something to you guys. I run into this all day long. I see a group of my people dwelling, beating the hell out of a problem. They just keep talking about it. What do you do with a problem?
Solve it.
Solve it. So the first time you have a problem comes up, don't freak, don't panic, don't fall over, don't cry. Problems are to be solved, right? And if you take them as just that, something I need to solve, it actually becomes fun. So we have a problem, right? And we need ideas. And we're not going to get into the deep solution because I got other things I want to share with you guys. But I want somebody to tell me strategically, how can we win? They have the numbers, yeah? Oh.
They want something, so we give them what they want, and we exploit that discrepancy.
Okay.
In the World is Flat, Thomas Friedman writes about how America is still the most innovative nation in the world, and as long as we keep coming up with the ideas, then the more worker-based abilities from China and India will still be underneath our policies because we're innovative and come up with the new and not necessarily better ways to do it.
He's done well writing that book, but he's wet behind his ears. There is a lot of people who do this rah-rah thing that we've always prevailed, we will prevail again. Baloney. Facts are different. They're different sets of facts. We were the center. We were the place that everybody came to, right? Scientists wanted to come here. People wanted to migrate here. Will that be the same 15 years from now? Can you forecast that? Where do people want to go? Where the action is, right? China is playing it brilliantly. They're keeping their currency low deliberately. There is no reason one of our dollars should buy 8 of theirs right now. Should be maybe 4 or 5, technically. But they're keeping it down to 8. They're sucking all the corporations to bring in. My brother works for Cyprus, spends a week and a half, a month down there right now. They're building their plants there, right? They're going to get everybody pregnant. And once all these corporations have made massive commitment, they can bump their dollar to 4, 3, 2, 1 before you know it. It's the same. And it's the critical mass. Once the corporations go there, start investing and have resources, other people want to go there. Everybody tells me, you should go to China. Where are you going to make money? Dollars are going to go there. Developers are going to China, bringing dollars, making investments. India is a big country, 1.2 billion people, and 300 million entrepreneurs. Every one of them are trying to figure out. Okay? So what can we do? Yeah?
I think cooperation is more important than competition.
Okay. Elaborate.
I feel like we need to learn how to identify with these entrepreneurs rather than, in a lot of ways, use them to get something out of kind of flex our muscles.
Okay.
I think we need to recognize that China and India are going to take us over in terms of population and economy, and we're going to need to take on be more diplomatic and be able to identify with them and work with them rather than kind of bully them.
Okay, now let me throw a wrench in what I just set up for you. 20 years from now, are we going to live in a world of this country versus that country? Or is it going to be so global that it wouldn't even matter? Fast forward. You guys are entrepreneurship class, right? Means vision, looking out ahead, right? Is that right? Okay. So how global things are versus 20 years ago? Disease, information, money, jobs. Am I right? I mean, we have some morons want to put a wall between the United States and Mexico. Hello. It is literally idiotic. You have to think you guys will be living in the planet Earth, not in the United States. Does that make sense? So your competition isn't going to be exclusive to Minneapolis, St. Paul, to United States, to North America. You're going to be in a world competing with everyone simultaneously. There are people in Eastern Bloc countries, massive setups. You want to do IT work? It's a lot cheaper. India. You want to build 3D imaging? I make a phone call to some guy here. He's got some people working in China. Tomorrow I have 3D images of my club at a third of the cost of what I can get here after a week. And people whining about working too many hours. Okay? So think that your life, your professional life, by the time you guys are Jeff and I's age, you will be competing in 100% global environment. How are you going to win? You're going to compete in labor market? You want to be a factory line guy? You want to be middle-level management? Or you want to be the top dog? All right, that's going to take work. It's going to take work. You got to be the smartest. That's how you win. You got to write the big plans. You got to cast. You got to be the leader, right? And you got to work with everybody from all over the country, all over the world. It's not limited. It cannot remain limited. You know, you can't capture jobs in Detroit and promise the unions want to try to keep the jobs in Detroit. How? How are you going to compete at $45, $50 an hour labor with the countries who are paying $200 a month? How are you going to do that? How can you do that? Tell me. You can't.
There's union people that still try to.
They're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay? They're going to die because they're dinosaurs. They think they can stop the Mexicans from coming to our country. Right. If you stop the Mexicans coming to this country, we don't have any service. They are doing all the hard work right now. They're laying tiles, they're painting, they're servicing in the restaurants, they're doing all the work. So for us to try to stop them is like shooting ourselves right in the foot. So you have to think, you have to be prepared. So what I like to do with you guys is hopefully give you guys some tangible things you can work on, and how to get things done, how to communicate. Okay? I teach communication that is absolutely fail-proof. Why? Because I fly. And when we fly, we can't fail communication, because if we fail communication, our passengers will die. Right? So it's a simple system. They came up with it 50 plus years ago. It works like a charm still today. In our corporations, people fail it every single day. So I ask my assistant to do something. Send somebody a message. I come back. So did you do that? Yes, I did. What did you do? Well, I sent them an email. Okay. Did you get a response back that they got the email? No. Well, then, is that communication? No. So when you think of communication, ask for the person on the other side to repeat to you what you just said. Simple as that. Doesn't need to be any more complicated. You send an email, you ask your partner to do something, ask them, Jack, Jill, John, Send me an email back. Let me know you got this, and you're on the same page. It works across the system. Call it talk-back communication. When we fly, I'm at 30,000 feet. Air traffic control, I'm in the clouds. I can't see anything else. I rely on him to keep me away from other planes, right? He relies on our communication so I don't run into other planes. So he tells me descend and maintain to 20,000 feet. Name of my aircraft. I repeat the name of my aircraft. Say descend and maintain to 20,000 feet. He hears me that I repeated that message. He's relaxed. He can go on to the next communication. So make sure your communication is complete. Second thing, when you want to get things done, think about the full assessment of what needs to get done. Who am I going to get? Think about Hollywood. Have you seen foreign films? Have you guys seen foreign films? How do they compare? Occasionally they have a good plot. Once in a while they win something in a film festival. But how many times do you go to the theater and watch something that compares to what comes out of Hollywood?
Never.
Huh? You don't. Why?
Brad Pitt.
What?
Brad Pitt.
I don't hear you. Tell me.
The actors and the actresses. The
They're-
big name people.
Yeah. They have 6.5 actors or actresses in Italy. They use them for everything. Right? Here, we can have a moron like Rocky Balboa. He can only do one thing. And the movies are great when they cast him to do that one thing. When the guy gets too rich and wants to make his own movie and try to pretend to be something he's not, it flops. Right? So, what we do here, which is so great, you got to learn from, is you got to make sure you get the absolute right person, naturally built to do what you want them to do, put them in that role. The movie Ocean 11 is a masterpiece for teaching in schools of how to get things done, and in corporations. Because they did exactly all the steps, had a big vision, right? He took that vision, and he needed a partner. He needed somebody to share it with. Bounce it off. They realized it's a big deal, but they decided they want to do it. Right? And they mapped out what needs to be done. They needed a guy who does backflips and goes through whatever. There was only one guy. They found that one guy. They didn't get you to try to teach you how to do that because it would take him a couple of decades and maybe you can, maybe you can't. So they went and casted the exact person, the best person for each of those jobs. They pulled them together. They shared the vision. They got everybody on board that they're going to be part of this deal. They knew the chances, they knew the risk, they knew the repercussions, right? But better yet, this is what doesn't happen when people fail in corporations, is that people say, well, I know my job, but do you know how your job fits the whole piece? Because if you don't know how your piece matters to the whole thing, you could choose to show up late, you could choose not to do it as good, because it doesn't matter. You don't know. It's not that you're a bad person. You just don't know how that fluctuation in your performance can topple the whole thing, right? Furthermore, by each party knowing what the other people had to do, they would be aware that if that person fails, now they have to go to plan B, right? Total communication. They're in contact with each other the whole time. And of course, the movie presents that they succeeded. Well, I like the movie because it has a story that hangs together based on them doing the right steps. Okay? All right. Problems. One of the biggest issues is people dwell with problems. They keep hashing it. They point fingers. Just dig in. Close the door. Instead of just bitching about it, write a solution. Write a complete solution. Solve the problem. It's that simple. If you get into any corporation, and when problems come up or are discussed, you take that problem, you write it down like a school project. Go home and say, you know what, I want to write this complete solution for this and present it. A nice, beautiful, powerful presentation. Do that every time. I guarantee you, before you're 30, you're vice president. Because most other people don't do that. And then finally, what do you guys think Jeff or I do? What do you think I do for my job? What do I do? Let me just make it easy for you, give you a hint. Both of us do the exact same thing. So what do I do? Yes?
Manage and delegate.
Okay. What do I do? That's close, but tell me. It's not the answer. Yes?
Communicate.
Okay, good. It's not the answer. What else do I do? Come on. Yes?
Find opportunities.
Find opportunities. Good, but it's not the answer. What do I do?
Lead.
Huh?
Lead.
I do that too, but that's not the answer. Keep
Solve
going.
problems.
Closer, but it's not the answer. What do I do every day?
Be the visionary.
Not the answer.
Create solutions.
Okay? Not the answer.
Find people who can solve your problems for you.
I do that too, but it's not the answer. What do I do all day long? Every day. I have to do this every day.
Recognize problems.
Sit-ups? Do that too, but it's not the answer.
Create opportunities.
Somebody already said that. It's true, but not.
Think about future problems.
I do that, but that's not the answer. I make decisions. Every day I make decisions. Every day he makes decisions. That's what we do. I don't necessarily, yes, sometimes I go into construction and help it a little bit, but I don't build the club. I don't clean the locker room. I don't sell memberships. I don't take somebody through a personal training program. I make decisions. Right? Does that make sense? When I solve a problem, I'm making decisions. When I create opportunities, I'm making decisions. I make decisions, he makes decisions. Right? And we are at the role we are because we are forced to make a decision. I can't not make decisions. The other guy can run into something, is too afraid of making a decision, and he's going to come to my office. What do we do with this? Right? Where do I go? Buck stops right there. I got to make a decision. Right? So, if I'm making decisions all day long, what is likely to happen with those decisions? I make some bad ones. I make some good ones. I make some that there probably are so-so. Right? Is that right? Okay. So, what do I do when I make a good decision?
I was going to say you have to evaluate the decision you make first.
Normally it's done for you with the results of what happens. That's true. You have to evaluate. You have to check. You have to see how your decisions, you make a decision, you put it in process, you make it work, and then you come back and measure. Correct. And you evaluate it. And then, what do I do? Make another decision. Correct. And what about when I'm wrong?
You learn from it.
Fix it, move on.
Fix it and move on. How do I move on? Make another decision. And if that one's wrong, so now let me tell you about decision making. We have a project. We want to send a shuttle to do an orbit around Jupiter and back. What do we want the chances of success be in our calculation of how we're going to send this, how the trajectory and all that?
Pretty good.
Huh?
100%.
Correct. So, for that decision, I can't make a quick decision, can I? I got to do all sorts of calculation. I got to get a team. We got to measure. We got to calculate. We got to evaluate. We got to build models. We got to test, right? The other scenario is I have a target of one of those big target things and 100 arrows and a bow, right? And I want to hit the center. Do I go through the same type of a process as I went through with the shuttle going to the Jupiter and back? Or do I take a shot and adjust with the next one, adjust with the next one? What do I do? Which way can I get to the which way can I hit that center faster? Huh?
By adjusting after every shot.
Exactly. So for you to make good decisions, you have to first make decisions. You have to make decisions. You got to force yourself to make decisions in life. You're wrong. Say I was wrong. Admit it. And make another one. You also learn, as you make decisions, to learn the balance, the gut feel, the art of decision making. The art is to know when I lean towards sending a shuttle to the Jupiter, right? And when I just make a quick decision and adjust, right? So that becomes, for you, how the art of decision making is to know what type, where do you lean it? How much homework before the launch of the decision, right? So think about your decision making process. You are going to lose. I love that commercial. It says, you won't make it in the NFL. Have you seen that? Anybody seen that? The little guy and the little two big guys? I love that. We're going to lose the battle of labor. We are already ruined. We're too lazy to go do construction labor. We ain't going to do it. There are much more hungry people around the world that are going to work hard in that front. Right? You can win in being the entrepreneur, to be the leader. You can win the game. You have to learn to make decisions, good ones. You have to be educated. You can win that game. And as long as you plan globally. And that's your way out of the situation we're in. Understand it, become a part of it, solve the problem by becoming smart, good decision maker, good leader. Admitting your mistakes is good leadership characteristic. People respect. Now, I always use as an example, if I know not everybody's high on Bush, but if he came here and stood up in here and sincerely said, guys, I've made a lot of good decisions. I stand by. I've made a lot of mistakes. Here's an example of 5, 6 things. I could have made a better decision. Now here's what I'm going to do about it. You know what? His rating would go from 40 to 80. Like that. But not a 1. I am still amazed. We have had no politician in this country who has ever done anything wrong. Have you noticed that? None of them ever do anything wrong. So that we lose respect, don't we? Even the better ones. Even the people I support. When they don't have the guts to come out, they said they screwed up on something, I lose respect. It's a human thing. It's part of making decisions. You know, if you're governor of a state, you got to make, I think I make a lot of decisions. Governor of the state got to make a lot of decisions. A president has to make a ton of decisions. In fact, when they wake up in the morning, they're being hammered to come up with whatever they're going to do with something, right? And you want someone who has the guts, has the courage to make decisions. So that's all. Think about you and your opportunity to lead as a function of decision making, how to get things done. Admit your mistakes. Make another one. Do it again and again and again. And the more you make decisions, like anything else, the better you become at it. I have one more thing I want to share with you guys, a great book called The Ultimate Question. I just came across this book about a month ago, and today I have a bank of employees, system being developed. They have already started making the phone calls, but we will automate it. The ultimate question, I'll give you guys a summary of the book, is on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not likely at all, 10 being most likely, 5 being absolutely neutral, how likely is it that you would recommend a certain product to a colleague or a friend? Anybody? Did I miss anybody? On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not likely at all, 10 being most likely, 5 being neutral, how likely is it that you would recommend a certain product to a colleague or a friend? Everybody with me? Okay. Then you take the scores, the number of people who give you 9s and 10s, called promoters. You ignore the people who give you 7s and 8s, and you deduct the number of people who give you 0 through 6 from the people who gave you 9s and 10s. And that will become your net promoter score. Okay? The premise is that the product that gets a 70, 80% net promoter score doesn't really need advertising, because you have all these people out there pounding their chest about to their friend. I had 3 people in the last week or two to just go apeshit about the new. They bought a Apple computer, and they're selling it hard. How great it is, how great the experience is. So Apple's doing something right. Well, they're getting $2,000, $2,500 for a computer. The PCs are going the route of, get one for $300 or $400, $500, right? So and how are they doing this? Because people who are using the product, right, are bragging about how great it is. And the other guy goes and spends $1,500 more or $1,000 more to get an Apple laptop and relearn what you have to do, come back. So the key for us is to focus on what I like about that book, what I like about what Apple's doing and how they're getting that customer to come to them, is that you really are allowing the customer to tell you how good your product is, right? Rather than you bragging about advertising how great you are, or promotions, or advertising, trying to coax people into coming and getting your product. So in entrepreneurship, what this does for you is the same thing. It really is bringing the focus back to the end vision. What is it that I want at the end, right? At the end, when you come up with an idea of a new product, what are you looking for? What do you hope to happen? Everybody want it, right? Is that what you want? You want to sell a lot of it? You have a hot sauce or something? You want everybody to eat it, right? I mean, whatever. What is it? Isn't that what you want? So focus on your customer. Focus on the reaction. Think about, okay, I just watched this guy eat the soup I made, right? What do I want to see? Frown on his face, right? If you think that way, you'll succeed. If you think that way and you take action, you'll succeed. All right, I'm going to leave some time for you guys to ask any questions you have. Yes?
Some of your competitors are bringing their fitness centers abroad to other countries, or other fitness centers are coming over to the U.S. and trying to implement their clubs over here. Are you planning on going international one day, or do you plan on doing something like Target and focus more on the national level?
Great question. We have a certain number of clubs that we have the capability of delivering, and we have the commitment to Wall Street that we have to deliver per year based on the percentage of growth that we have committed to. And right now, the opportunities right here in this country are so easy that it makes no sense for me to have to travel, an extra 8 hours or something for, to get there. So it's not, if I just make a judgment of where is my time spent better, still is hugely in this country. As far as other people coming and going, I think they're running. If they were really good, if the product was really good, they wouldn't need to run to another country to build something. There's plenty of opportunity here. So there are different strategies. There are countries right now that you could build literally what we built here 25 years ago, which was just an okay product and wouldn't make it here. Right now in some other countries, that would be a hot thing. So for somebody who can execute something as elaborate as what we do, they need to run and go to those countries. Our strategy is we'll wait till they go build a bunch of little clubs in those countries, get people primed for interested in exercise. Then I'll come to those countries and build the big boxes in there. Okay? By then, we would probably need to make the trip. Yes?
Do you believe you can have an unlimited number of stores in this country without franchising?
Unlimited is a big number.
Well, the customers want them so close. They don't want to have to travel very far.
Yeah.
So that leaves a lot of space.
That's correct. There are different elements the way you would look at our space. If you want a fitness center, if you want to go in, do Stairmaster, maybe a bench press or something like that, you can do it in a room like this. So there is a business model that says I can throw in Anytime Fitness or a Curves or something in a shopping center, and people can come only a mile from their home, right? Doesn't take much travel. They can walk in, they can get a workout, they can leave. It's cheaper, but it's a fitness center. I never wanted to be in just the fitness center business because it's too vulnerable. I have a scientist buddy of mine. They're working on hormones and stuff. They've tested it on various animals. They give them the hormone, and the animal looks like Incredible Hulk. And for that type of animal, without doing anything, right? So, a fitness center is a vulnerable business proposition. In the 80s, people built, 70s, they built the European health spas, and it was fitness center. Getting people in, it was not a very comfortable space. It wasn't the nicest ambiance. It wasn't a place you wanted to be in. And when I looked at the business in the early 80s, I looked at the health club space doing about $7 billion in sales from one coast to the other. And Disney World was doing $3.5 billion in sales in just one amusement park. And that's just one small fragmentation of entertainment. Okay? So the driver in each of us is either running away from pain or going towards pleasure. And the health clubs in the early days sold the fact that you need to work out, otherwise your mother's going to die early or something. Okay? You're going to get cancer, you're going to get fat. It was all these negative, you need to do this because it's good for you, but you come and pay the price. You go to a stinky little gym, lighting is bad, the colors are bad, but you need to pay the price. Well, limited success with that. What I wanted to do is build an environment that you want to come in. You want to go swimming. You want to lay on that outdoor pool, resort-like pool. You have bistro, somebody serve you food, get suntan, play basketball, get in a soccer league, go climbing wall, play a game of racquetball or squash with your friend. You can't do that in those little gyms. And you can't do it in your basement. Okay? And I wanted to build an environment so beautiful, so pretty, that at the end of your workday, that environment, the lighting, the colors, the front desk person who's helping you to get in, all of those things were more inviting than what you get in your home. Then you want to go to the place, not the gym. You want to go to that place. It's a healthy way of life entertainment center. Okay? Now, in the exercise fitness center world, I can design 20 different models. But every one of them, barrier to entry is too easy. One guy wakes up in the morning, starts a franchise of Fitness 19, another guy does Anytime Fitness, another guy does Curves. But every one of those are vulnerable, and they're vulnerable to one another because they're small operators, they're not really smart, they don't do homework, and you go to one area, you're going to have 4 of each one of them. They all starve. So our box is now about 25 to 30. Some parts of the country, it costs $40, $50 million to build one. It takes 300 employees to learn, certified, to go run it. So the barrier to entry is not just the money, it's the know-how, it's the human capital, it's all of those things. Yes?
Do you try to differentiate your clubs between each other? I mean, differences in, like, if you're putting them in different locations, or even if, like, 2 are close by, having them different from each other, or, like, the same exact model, like, everywhere you go?
It's a great question. In Minneapolis, we have a collection of clubs. This is the test tube. I'm here, I live here, I can go to different clubs, I can check, I can run different models and see how they work, and we try to tie them all up together. So a member in Minneapolis really gets a collection of different types of clubs. We've bought some, we have leased some, we have taken over some other ones. Outside of Minneapolis, almost every box looks identical to Chanhassen facility with a minor changes. So outside of Minneapolis, we have a chain of club. Now, it's a lot more difficult to run a collection of businesses than a chain of businesses. Because in a chain, you know all the numbers. You know all the stats. You know that this club is spending more money per swipe, per utilization of the club, on toilet paper than that one. Or they're spending more dollars at the front desk labor than the other club per utilization of the club, or per square foot. So you can very much analyze what happens and then correct problems systematically. Once the boxes start varying in size, dimension, geography, the correlation of where they are, where the things are at, then you start kind of, well, it's because I have my, this room over here, and then all the excuses starts coming up. So does that answer your question? Yes, go ahead.
My question is about the, burnout effect that seems to happen to a lot of clubs. What do you have put in place for what you're doing so that, in 5 or 10 years, your facilities are still state-of-the-art?
Great question. We basically make sure every club gets a 5-year, systematically, complete overhaul. New equipment, new carpet, new wallpaper, and so what happens to them is when you go to Egan facility that just been opened in 1994, if you go to Egan facility now and look at that club compared to what it was in 1994, it is far more beautiful. You know, we upgraded, when we upgraded other new clubs, as we went, we've had 2 major remodels in that club. So the lockers may have been initially just plastic laminate, but then when we started going into the cherry wood or something like that, we changed those. Okay. So we remodeled them. Yes?
As far as problems and solving them goes, what's the situation with FOSS swim schools, with Lifetime Fitness, the partnership, and then the future of that?
Yeah, good question. I'm not very close to it because my guys will handle that. From very, very distant, kind of knowledge of what's going on, there was a gap between him not thinking he can make enough money with the deal he struck initially, and us not being able to get the right margins. So if we gave him what he's asking for after the math, the initial deal was fine with us, but he wants to make more. It didn't work for him, so he comes back and he wants to change it. No, what he wants doesn't work for us. And our team probably thinks that they can execute something like that on their own. That's what I know. I don't know the details. Yes?
Does Lifetime Fitness have like a label brand of supplements? And if so, what are they? And then if they don't, are you guys looking to align with the company to sell your own supplements at any point in time?
Good question. We have our own formulated brand of vitamins and nutritional products. It's not private label. We actually went through the whole process of doing the formulation because there's really nothing good out there. We did the research initially to do that. And yes, we have a very large portion of our dollars come from our members buying our own vitamins and again, nutritional products. We decided to go out. Unfortunately, an outside world, for us, the cost of educating the consumer on the difference between our multivitamins and the other ones that they're look alike, but doesn't have the same substance, the cost of that education was more than the profits we could make. So we decided to just sell to our own membership. We're at about 1 million members today, not memberships. If you and your family join, it's one membership, multiple members. We're over 1 million members, and it's going to grow about, it should double based on our growth about every 4 or 5 years. So we have a built-in clientele. We can just focus on them. It's a lot cheaper to market to them than the outside world. So that's the direction we're going.
Line of like whey products. And
we had that too.
NO2s, stuff like that. Creatine.
We have all of that. We have all of that. Yeah, any other questions? Yes?
While we're on the transferring of the clubs, my parents live in Coon Rapids, and I still go there, and I actually used to work there.
Yeah.
How did you guys transfer that from, I believe it was a Kmart, into what is now a pretty beautiful club?
Right. I actually do most of the layout of the clubs myself, and in the first generation of club business I was in, our company was too small to be able to build from build to suit. So we basically are usually designed, found some space, grocery store or whatever, and converted that. Large format, Home Depots or Kmarts or whatever, they're really nothing more than a shell. And if I could find one somewhere, I could easily decide to either build from scratch or go inside of one of those boxes and try to put all the pieces together in that. We are reluctant to do that in a lot of markets where we go in because we like to brand the company properly with our prototype boxes. But in certain markets where real estate is tougher, if I find something like that and that's the only option, I will go for it. Okay. Yes?
In the presentation, they mentioned a challenge with expansion is the loss of control. So what do you see your role being, and how will that change as you guys expand?
Well, the role I want is a nice beach house in Bahamas, but it's just not happening. Ultimately, if you look at organizations as they get larger, they go through phases of struggle between the initial founders or CEOs and then the rest of the organization. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Typical, it could be two ways. The guy like me in my role is just a control freak, and he wants to control everything, not because it's the best thing for the entity. It's an insecurity from the leader, okay? Or it's actually a need to stay close to make things happen. Now I'm going to give you guys some real solid things to think about. Pros and cons. I design space. I teach classes. I did personal training. I ran my finance for many years. I'm a unique CEO who can actually do what every one of my direct reports do. Not very many CEOs can run finance. They need a CFO. I can do all of that. So when I think of something, I'm able to think about all aspects, the dollar side, the quality, the product, the marketing. I can think of all that in one brain. So because I can do it in one brain, I have an advantage in the fact that there's not going to be any miscommunication. I hope not, because that would be pretty dangerous if you had miscommunication in your own brain, right? But when you put 7 people who are designed to know those 7 disciplines together, right? And you watch them in a meeting, and I sit them aside and I say, okay, you guys communicate to come up with a solution. It is painful to watch them miss in just communicating with one another. There's a line that says a camel is a horse designed by a committee. So that's why it's so gnarly looking. So what happens is when you get that committee, they have a variety of different challenges in really, they are pushing and pulling. Not necessarily the best idea emerges during the committees. The most vocal person happens to drive their agenda. Okay? Not necessarily the best idea. Sometimes the best idea comes from somebody who's quiet, not aggressive. They just don't say anything. They don't fight back. So that's a challenge. The reverse side of this is that I won't live forever, number one. Number two, as the company gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it's just impossible for me to be involved in every decision. So you then have to ask yourself, how can we build an organization who comes together, makes decisions, gets alignment, and go out in a committed fashion? And there's no political agendas and backstabbing. And that is truly a big, big challenge. It's an ongoing challenge in a corporation. It's not something that you can come up with some grandiose magic formula that you tell them and then it's going to work forever, right? It's nurturing. I have 6 people who report to me directly, and I make sure I will pound it every single week, every single month. I take them on trips. I try to keep them as one united group without them start kind of throwing rocks at each other. So, and then try to bring decisions. I watch them make decisions. Sometimes I stay out. Let see how that kind of, get them practice of working together. It's tough.